Hey, and welcome to Optimizing Processes. In this lesson, we're going to be looking at the best way to look at a Zap and understand, how to compartmentalize it and really make it achieve the same thing it's already achieving, but at lower cost. So at scale, you're dealing with less hassle. Now, what we're going to be doing in this lesson is we're going to be looking at this specific Zapier here, which uses 4 OpenAI, and essentially the use case here is that I've had it basically build out 4 captions that are specific to the cat niche for cat toys. And as you'll notice, the Zap can be found in the description, but not this large usage Zap. The effectively optimized version of this Zap can be found in the description. So let's go ahead and jump over to our cost Excel sheet so we can see how much this one currently costs. So currently, as we see here, we have basically 5 Zaps that are being used, and around 206 tokens on average is being expenditured for 4 captions to be printed into a Google Doc. At scale, let's see what that would be at 100. And we're looking at around $20 to achieve this Zap 100 times. So let's go ahead and jump over to the Zap so we can kind of get an idea of what we're working with here. So if we jump over to the Zap, we can see essentially 4 different prompts here and a trigger of a new to-do. Basically, Basecamp is a good CRM that I use. I use this new to-do as my way to kind of debug different Zaps and automations. So in this context, I'm just using it so we can just run it and see how it looks. What we have going on here is essentially each prompt is given, give me a Instagram caption that's focused on cat toys, give me 3 hashtags at the end, and then it will print out essentially these. Each one of these prompts is the exact same, and then I've asked it to basically take those prompts and put it into a Google Doc and essentially have it separated. What's really great about Google Docs and the append function is that you can use HTML as well. So this little BR is basically an indentation, a little break in the line. So therefore it doesn't come jumbled into like a hard to read paragraph. Rather, it's a line by line. And as you'll see when we print it over, essentially what it'll look like. So let's go ahead and just run the Zap. Without actually putting the to do, I'm gonna go ahead and just do it as a test action so you can kind of see the end result of what we're looking at here. So I'm going to retest this action real quick. Let it go ahead and do that. And then if we go ahead and come over to the doc, we can kind of see what we got going on here. First caption, second caption, third caption, fourth caption. In this context, if you're a social media manager, you want a bunch of captions. Maybe you have a pet product and you just want a bunch of captions. Obviously, we can get crazy here. We could have this automatically already put into a schedule, automatically associated with an image. But just for this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to lessen the amount of Zap usage and OpenAI tokens for achieve the same effect. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to delete this. Let's go back over to the Zap. What do we look at when we're trying to basically debug a Zapier in order to make it so it uses less usage? One would be less blocks. That's a big indicator of how many Zaps are going to be used in the process. One other thing I want to point out here real quick, just for your sake, is that you can rename these to whatever you want. So for future reference, if you have really big flows, you can have better organization. But for our sake, let's go ahead and look at how we do this. So obviously, we're using a lot of Zaps, a lot of AI, because we're doing 4 different prompts, and then we're using all 4 of those prompts and putting them in here. So instead of using 4 OpenAI prompts, let's go ahead and just do 1. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to delete this guy. I'm going to delete this guy. I'm going to delete this guy. Come over here and we're going to go ahead and re-edit this prompt in order to achieve the same thing essentially. So we're going to do 4 Instagram captions focused on the cat pet niche or cat toy niche, and then we're gonna go ahead and say 3 hashtags at the end of each caption, and then we're gonna do this real quick. List out in number format. See if that helps the idea of 1, 2, 3, 4. So let's go ahead and do that. Test action. Let that load. And there we go. So essentially, as you see here, you got 1, 2, 3, 4. And in theory, I could take this right away, chuck it in here, and we'd just go like this, right? But let's say for some reason you want to make it a little bit more complex. because you maybe want to have it so it's separated rather than having one big data block. Because in theory, this could be it. I've solved the issue. I have less zaps being used, one AI font prompt being used. It could be done, and would be using it at a cheaper usage at this point because we only did one AI prompt. We just structured it better. But let's make this a little bit more advanced, and let's go ahead and have it so in the context that you maybe want to separate these into separate data points rather than just one block. This is how you would do it. So you're gonna come over here, go to Format. You're going to choose text because we're dealing with text here. And we're going to choose the split text. And then we're going to have the input, the AI or the prompt that we just got. And then the separator is essentially what's going to separate each one into a different data point. Now, what's great here is you can always have sometimes some help. So if you're confused on something in Zapier, you can go ahead and click something like this, which will lead to a help article. And then it'll give you a little bit more description of what you want to do. So in this context, we may want to use the new line because it's already separated by a line, if that makes sense, like how it was structured, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then essentially, we can test this. And one other thing I forgot to do here is we want to tell it how to separate it, essentially. So we're going to do all separate fields so we get separate data points. So I'm going to retest this real quick. Let it load. And formatting tool is a really great tool in the future for you to use when you want to structure data better. And in this context, as you see, it worked. So each one of these is its own data point now. And what we can do with that is we can come over here. And instead of using the OpenAI, come over here to text formatter, show all options, and look at that. We have parsed it out into separate little data points, which obviously can be really extended to a lot of different use cases. But just for our sake, we're doing it in this use case. So go like that, hit continue, and let's go ahead and test this action. Let that load, and then let's jump back over to the Google Doc. Look at that. So the Google Doc has gone ahead and printed out all this with our specific captions, our hashtags. Let's go back over. Let's see how much of expenditure that cost us overall. So I'm going to go ahead and publish this Zap. You can name your version if you want to. You don't have to name it at all. And once I publish it, I'm going to go ahead and make that new to-do in the tasker. And then I'm going to come back over here and we're going to go ahead and calculate the overall Zaps. I'm going to go ahead and calculate the overall AI. Then we can kind of see the cost difference. So I'll be right back. Look at that. So if we look at the original Zap here, we have a usage of around 5 Zaps and 206 tokens coming out to around 20 cents. With the optimized version that we just did, we have 12 cents only being expenditure. Now that might not seem like a lot sense wise, but at scale, you'll see the difference here. So looking at from a $19 to $12, so around 40% saved on your cost. Bottom line, huge, right? So what we've learned from this is essentially you can achieve the same outcome, but the way you go about achieving it is pretty significant, because if you do too many Zaps, too many AI prompts, you can increase your cost by over 40%. So now we can see the power of understanding how to optimize better for your flows. I hope in this process you understand a lot better of how to optimize your Zaps in order to reduce your costs. I mean, we reduced that one by over 40%. That's really great work. So overall, when you plan on using a Zap and you know you're going to use a lot, you know you're going to need it for scaling, it's best to use it and have it so these Zaps run cleanly and it's saving you money. Now we're at the very end of this course. You're coming into the last 2 lessons. I look forward to seeing you there, and I hope you've had a really informational time this entire time this course. I hope you look forward to these last 2 lessons. See you then.